tonight, eh?
Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hey everybody out there in podcast land. It's time to wake up and rub that sleep out of your eyes. Do I sound a little different today? Well, I'm actually in a different studio using a different mic. I think it'll be okay, but it's not going to be that same smooth quality that you're used to. Okay, it's time to get up, hit the road, and find out what adventures are awaiting all of us in the AML Nation as we zigzag across the globe looking for another box of chocolate-dipped Doritos. Or better yet, if you're looking for a challenge, see if you can find some camouflage golf balls. That would change the game entirely. I used to years ago, there were different colored golf balls, and I used orange ones. That was a fad for a while. And there were green ones, but everybody that I knew thought the green ones were yellow. So either I was colorblind or everybody else was colorblind. All right, enough of this foolishness. Enough golf analysis for one day. So today's podcast is our first series of Springfield interviews. This year I even did a few on Friday, so there's actually some interviews from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think I did 23 different interviews altogether. So that was a great time. We all had a great time together. We went to hockey, we went to dinner, we just did all sorts of stuff. We have Jim Sacco, who of course uses the AML booth for selling his City Classic structures. Beautiful structures, beautiful layout. If you're looking to buy some structures and support the AML Nation, buy City Classics. And then we talked to a fella named Kevin Rudko, who's actually from Edmonton, Alberta, and he sells a signal system, which, to be completely honest with you, I didn't fully understand what he was talking about, but I think I sounded excited enough that he believed I might know what he was talking about. And then we talked to a fellow I've known for years, Rick Hunter of hunterline.com, and they make bridges. Him and his wife sell all kinds of bridge kits, which have been very popular. He's been almost 30 years doing this. And there's somebody else we talked to, but right now I forget who it is. So how about if I stop talking and we get to these interviews, and then I'll talk to you again at the end. Subway chime, go. Okay, so now I am here with
Kevin Rudko.
Kevin Rudko. Hold her up a little closer there, Kevin. Yeah, but there you go. Kevin Rudko. And Bob Followfield insisted that I had to talk to you.
Okay.
So how do you know Bob?
Oh, well, I first run into Bob online through Facebook and other media and saw what he's doing with his layout. And I think I actually bumped into him here at the Springfield show.
Right.
Years back. Made first contact. And since then, I've been over to his layout. We've done some media stuff together, and we just bumped into him again today.
What kind of media stuff have you done?
With him, we did the Train Masters series. We did a couple episodes that are just airing in the next little bit, I understand.
Okay. Yeah, I used to be a host on there, but then Bob was a lot prettier.
Made for radio?
He's taller and younger and more handsome, and that was it for me. I was gone.
There you go.
So where are you from?
Actually, I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, up in Canada.
Home of Wayne Gretzky.
Home of Wayne Gretzky and Winter most times, too.
And is he still playing?
No, I think he's gone for a long time.
Oh, okay. All right. Are you an Edmonton Oilers fan?
Well, we try to be. They haven't been doing too well, but we're doing our best to support them. Okay.
So, all right. So, what are we dealing with here? What are you selling here at Springfield in 2020?
Well, Signalogic Systems, that's our company. It's been going on slowly for about 20 years now, but only in the last few have we started to really try to get our name out. And the big thing that we are working on is electronics for hobbyists, for model railroaders, particularly around signaling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 20 years.
20 years, yeah. It's been an interest of mine since as long as I can remember. Been in the hobby since I was 6.
Right.
And I've even made a career of working with the real railways and signaling. So this is really an extension of what I do for my day job.
So what do you do for your day job?
I've worked for both major railways in Canada through time. I've worked for the Edmonton Light Rail in the city. And in the last, about 8 years now, I've been working as my own consulting company under the Signalogic Systems banner.
Really?
Which actually works really nicely.
Yeah. So, okay. There's a lot of prototype railroaders in the hobby.
Yes.
Way more than anybody would have ever imagined. And I've discovered that through the podcast, and YouTube is helping discover that. And so you never got tired of, on the day you were working on the railroad, at night you were working on your model railroad. That never slowed you down, eh?
I remember family giving me that warning, saying, "You're gonna destroy something you love. You don't make it a job. You're just going to regret it." And I went forward, started working on the railways, on the gangs, on a shovel, digging ditches, putting cables in the ground.
Right.
And it just progressed, and it's always been something that really, it afforded me the ability to actually learn more about signaling. Like most of us modelers, we model by observing, and I had the benefit of now understanding this is how it really works.
Okay.
And so for me, doing the job, being on the railway, I learned a lot more, and it just really ingrained my fascination. And that's really what brought me to this level. I wanted to do some modeling above what was available.
Right.
And I found that it just didn't exist. So I started building it for my own, and people said, well, I think I'd like that too.
Right.
And at first I just started off with, well, sorry, I'm just doing it for myself, until I started hearing it enough that I thought, maybe there is something to this.
Right. And so what exactly is it you're building and selling?
Well, when we started, we would build crossings. That was our first big product line. And we would build the controllers as well as the signals that would go on the layout. So typically were HO signals, working gate lights and everything. They were beautiful, but just too much work. So in the last decade or so, we really shifted towards focusing on what's under the layout, a lot of the electronics themselves.
Right.
Knowing that there are a good selection of models to be used. If it's crossings, there's Tomar and NJ International and a handful of others, of course. And we've seen other companies come and go as far as signals, custom builders, or even just modelers. So we're focusing on providing prototypical systems that'll operate those models.
Okay, so now as somebody that was able to build a layout, and I would say I marginally understood electronics, is this because people are scared of electronics?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So is this relatively easy to build? Is it relatively hard to build?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I tell people, don't expect to build this thing overnight. You wouldn't build the scenery on your layout that way. It's a progression. We try and build our product so that it is as simple as possible. We're working and we're very close to fully releasing a signaling system that is very prototypical. And the big driver on the design of this thing has been that we don't want customers to have to use any programming whatsoever. You actually draw your layout as it is, as a modern dispatch panel. You drop segments on, signals and switches and turnouts, whatnot. And the system is smart enough in the computer to realize, okay, this is what you're building. And the hardware understands its job. So once the computer tells it, this is what this guy wants, it understands and goes, okay, yep, okay, I know you're going to put signal driving outputs on these slots, and there's inputs here and switch interfaces and so forth.
Right.
And the bulk of what you have to do is kind of define, where do I want that block detector input? Where do I want that signal driven from? That's the toughest thing you have to do. So we're really working on trying to make this customer friendly.
And do they have to be computer whizzes if you have to lay out a computer? Like, it's important because, we've talked to all sorts of people in the hobby, and the common current is always, it's too difficult, it's too hard, and I can see people wanting to buy this product, being excited to buy this product. But if they pull it out of their box and there's like I said, I'm at best average when it comes to electronics.
Sure. And I think that's true of so many modelers. There's that's one thing I do see is when we get into some of the more modern solutions that are out there, there's still a complexity to it. And I think for some people, the hobby is that complexity.
Yes,
they like the electronic side of it. But there are a lot of people who want to get into that realism without having to get into the technical nuts and bolts. So I think we really are getting to that point. We've got customers that are been working with the product for a number of years as beta testers. They've been very happy with it. They're fluid with what's there. The software that we use to configure it is going to be released as freeware. So customers can openly download this and try it and see what it takes to actually configure a system before they even put hands on hardware from the bank account at all.
So that part, the software is going to be free.
That's right.
Free download, and they can play with it and have fun with it. So
Exactly.
Okay, so let's make sure everybody understands what your website is exactly.
Okay. You can find us at www.signalogicsystems.com.
Signalogicsystems.com.
Yes, one
so
L.
3 words.
That's right.
1 L.
Yeah, Signalogic, one word.
Okay.
1 L.
So it's 1 L like railroad, not 2 L's like Lionel.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming you've listened to every episode of our podcast, and some of them twice.
Well, I'm just hearing about you today, and I'm sorry to say, Lionel, but we're going to check it out for sure.
Well, Bob's been on several times.
Oh, see, he
I
hasn't.
can't believe he hasn't told you.
I'm going to have to talk to him.
Of course, you just met him, though.
Well, for today, yes.
Yeah, but you just met him at Train Masters.
Yes. Well, we've met a couple. Let's see. We met here 2 years ago.
All right. So what are you? How many times have you been to Springfield?
Well, we showed up not last year for the first time 2 years ago. I knew that I wanted to start displaying here on the stateside. We'd only done shows up in Canada, Calgary, the biggest one, at Supertrain. And so we just came down to scope the place out, kind of understand how is a show built, how does a company come here and get a hall table and look good. A lot of the shows we're used to, they cover everything up, they put drapery up, and it's a finished product. So we thought, how do we do this? So we came here just to check out the scene 2 years ago. I was blown away by the mass of this. It's incredible.
Yeah, you can't imagine. You tell anybody to come for the first time and you're like, you just can't describe it.
No. I mean, even a general kind of a hobby or let's say an RV show or something. I just, that's the kind of scale you're expecting.
Yeah.
That's what you see here when you come. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like Supertrain is a big deal. It's a big show in Western Canada. And you probably walked in here and went, okay, Supertrain's like one of the small buildings.
Yeah, it's like a closet compared to this.
Yeah. So, okay, is this your first year selling?
Well, we don't sell here. Coming across the border is tricky. So we just display it. And so our customers can find us online, or we do have dealers that typically try and sell here. So.
All right. So is this your first time displaying?
No, we were here last year, and so we were in the same spot. And so what we understand is once you get the spot here at the show, you get to keep it. And it's a wonderful location. We're very happy with it.
And did you receive the results from being at the show that you were hoping for?
I think so. I think with every new venue that we go to, we expect that people are a little bit apprehensive. They're still not sure of the name. There's a bit of window shopping at this point only. But once there's some recurring attendance, we found that that's when people finally get the confidence to start moving forward with it. So I suspect probably this year, we had a lot of interest last year. I was talking myself hoarse.
Right.
And I suspect this year there's going to be even more people that casually walked by and talked to us, coming to us seriously saying, let's get started.
All right. And you fly from Edmonton or drive?
We flew. We came through Toronto.
All right.
Yeah, and
home of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's where they are, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Came through there to Boston, checked out that scene, and it's a beautiful city to hang out at, and just drove from there here this morning to set up.
Oh, okay. My friend George Bogatuk, who works for Soundtracks, he's a spokesman. He's been with Soundtracks for 10, 15 years.
Okay.
I was just over there, and he handed me a Dallas Stars hat.
Oh.
Like a toque.
Yep.
And I put it on, and we took pictures, and I thought it was mine, and then he took it back.
Oh. It's a rental, I guess.
I guess so. I'm just throwing that in because I want George to know that I'm... so how much give us a rough idea of cost? Say somebody had I don't know, let's say like a 10 by 10 layout, like in a good bedroom size layout.
Sure. 10 by 10. Well, really what I did, Lionel, is I did some work just kind of splitting it up on a per block basis. That's what usually people were asking for. That way, you might have a very simple circle on a 10 by 10, or you might have a very complicated system of overlapping tracks. And our controller for the signaling can run up to 32 signals. So that could be, double direction, bidirectional. That's 16 blocks onto one controller. what we did is we ran, if you had just simple ABS without much for switches and stuff like that. And really what we found is, the simplest signaling per block, all in, you were probably looking at about 45, and this was Canadian, $45 Canadian. So that'd be probably about 30 US, let's say.
Right.
And on the high end, you're probably looking at 60 Canadian. So you're probably, again, talking, what would that be? Maybe let's say 45 American.
So you're selling a product. So let's see if I got this right. You're selling, what's it called again? Signal?
Well, the company's Signalogic Systems.
Oh,
the product, the signaling controller, we call it a digital bungalow module,
right.
DBM, because that's the name of the housings that we use on the wayside to house all the equipment. So the controller performs all the same functions that would be out in the field in the real world.
I know it seems unprofessional and I don't seem to remember the name of the company, but if you wait about 10 years, I think by then the podcast will be pretty good.
Well, I'll play it back then.
yeah, play it back then. So like for a really a nominal amount of money, a fairly small amount of money, somebody can get free software and then get a signaling system go up and going, and then all they need to do is buy the signaling, but they've got the brains of the signaling system.
And the intention is that it's going to be prototypical in as much as we can. And it basically what most of our customers thus far have told us is that they typically end up spending more on the models if they have them purchased or custom built than they do on the control side.
And do you sell signals or anything else like that?
No, we've kept it open in that way because we know there is a selection out there.
Okay.
So we don't want to hem somebody into a particular vendor.
Okay.
Very, very much like what a lot of the decoder manufacturers originally did. They just built the decoders and somebody else builds the locomotives. We kind of see ourselves the same way. We're doing the control side. Somebody else will deal with the models.
And there's a market for it, just signals. And
Yeah. I think, DCC seemed to be the big thing. That was the last decade and a half. And people really were pushing themselves into that and getting comfortable with it. And we're finding that people are now quite comfortable in that area and they're looking for something new. So it seems like more and more people are casually getting interested in signaling and things like crossings are a really simple way to start off.
Sure.
The other side of the business that we ventured into early, because we know everybody has turnouts, we did a bunch of switch control products as well, because that's part of getting into signaling. It's an important aspect that people tend to overlook, and so we also went into that area. So things like the Tortoise, we have a built-on controller that plugs into it. We've got for twin coil like Atlas and Pico, and we're expanding that line to use a standardized interface so we can have a fascia mount display. We can interface to our signaling system in a standardized method, but you can choose whatever switch machine you like to use.
Wow. So it's all pretty cool. So you worked for Canadian National.
I did.
You worked for Canadian Pacific. Both of them you worked as somehow in the signal department.
That's right.
And then you worked for Edmonton Light Rail.
Yep.
In signal. And then 8 years ago you started a consulting company named after the same company, the same name that you used for your.
That I've been using for 20 years. Yes.
Really. And how's being self-employed and.
It's been great. I mean, there's always ups and downs.
Sure.
It's a small company, but we're slowly trying to grow that. It's allowed some wonderful flexibility. Having the name together, it's allowed me to kind of subsidize some of the hobby side of things.
Sure.
Coming to this show would be probably very difficult to just do it as myself from the other side of the continent in a different country.
Yeah.
But this way, it's allowed me to actually allow for that kind of expenditure to invest toward building this side of my business.
Well, I know people are going to be interested. So what sort of consulting job would you do? I mean, you don't have to tell me in detail, but just...
Typically, we take on very detailed signaling designs, whether it's crossings or train control, like CTC type things. That a lot of our work has been light rail in the last few years, so there's a lot of engineering for companies that are out there, but they don't have the expertise of this very niche skill set. So it's something that, because I was so interested in for so long, I asked a lot more why questions and learned a lot more in depth than a lot of other people did. And it's really served me well to get into these other markets and, do work for environments that are mainline, that are very, regulated and traditional. And a lot of other people do understand it, to these light rails where they have their own rules, their own ways of doing things, little nuances. And, it's just been a really great experience to get into all that.
Okay, so in reality, we'll tell everybody that, in fact, you'd never heard of the podcast. We'd never met. I just happened to be walking by on the Friday afternoon at the Springfield show,
That's
and
right.
Bob stopped me.
Yes.
And So I'm going to ask you the $1 million question that I ask everybody that's in the industry of model railroading. Is the hobby growing or shrinking?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I mean, you come to a place like this and you think it has to be holding its own. I really do think it's changed. We certainly, even in the time that I've been in the hobby, which is not as long as some that are here, I still have most of the color in my hair.
Yeah.
There's been a big change. I remember a lot of smaller niche kind of market companies that have gone. I remember building all my box cars and all the rolling stock, and now it's so much off the shelf.
Yeah.
There's been less interest in building than there, versus just get it ready and run. And I think that's kind of speaks to the amount of time that we have as people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think one of the predictions that I have is that I think some of that is going to return. I think maybe part of it has been the technology boom that's happened in the last 20 years. And it's so easy to have instant gratification at the click of a button. I mean, we know that just ordering our models and it's here the next day or that same week. But, we see kids that, they like their games. I have kids and, they like that click of a button and they got it now. But you're starting to see things like even you go to the store and you'll find coloring books for adults. And I think there's starting to be a return of people are kind of craving to do something tactile, create something versus just instant gratification. Yeah. I think a lot of those little niche kind of things, even like quilting and stuff, I've seen that there's a little bit more of an interest in some of that. And I think the hobby might see some of that in the years to come too, where people actually want to start building things.
My own personal opinion is that Al Gore claims he invented the internet. And I believe he invented it specifically for model railroading because everybody was in their basement and couldn't connect. And now with social media, we're all connected. It's bigger than it's ever been. And personally, I think the hobby's going to explode and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo.
Well, you know what? I would have never met people like Bob if it hadn't been for Facebook or any of these platforms. And seeing that there's more of us out there that exist. And you look at those crowds and it is younger guys. It's not the older folks. So
it is.
I think it's just a changing hobby.
That was going to be my next question. Like the NMRA is convinced that the average age is 102. And me personally, I'm starting to think that the average age is dropping too. Like you see, like yourself, how old are you?
I'm 42.
Okay. So you're 42. Like I know lots and lots of people that are younger that are interested in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And everybody, I think, starts at the same age. I think you're born with this wiring where big machines and trains fascinate you.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the hobby's going to grow myself personally. So.
I think it's always been more of a, retired man's hobby. And maybe that'll kind of be the string that always holds it together. But I don't think it's a wrong thing to bring younger people in. It's just that sometimes they don't have the means to support the hobby. No. But I think there still is an interest. I mean, I've seen that ourselves where let's say kids, we were part of a club and kids that were there as kids, but they couldn't afford it. And even once they came back 20 years later as adults and they're in, so if they can support it at that time, they will. Or some people, maybe they don't have the time or they have the family commitments. And sometimes they come into it later in their life. But, I think there is, like you say, that spark that gets people interested.
Absolutely. Well, let's see how long we've been on here for. I think we've been on talking for 20 minutes.
All right.
This is your first time ever. You've never even heard of us. Your first time talking on the podcast. Well, how do you think it went?
It went fabulous. I'm glad you came and found me.
All right. Well, it's Bob. It's all Bob. Bob Fallowfield. Everybody remember that name, Bob Fallowfield. And you are Kevin, and how do you say your last name?
It's Rudko, Rudko. It's Ukrainian.
That looks just that's spelled the way it sounds.
Exactly.
Rudko.
Simple.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll give one more good plug for your business. It's called
Signalogic Systems.
And that's signalogicsystems.com.
That's right.
Easy to find. Big website, nice website, easy to track around the website.
Yeah, I think so. It probably can do some updating, but it'll get you what you need.
Okay, hang on a minute. I got something for you. You'll be really excited about this.
Oh.
This is going to probably make your weekend. A button.
Look at this. Well, I really do feel like I'm somebody now. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful pin. AML, modelerslife.com. Thank you.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin, and good luck this weekend. And I know you're going to do well. And we'll talk. You know what? We're going to have to do a full-length interview with you.
After the show.
Yeah. I'll add you to the list.
All right.
Of the 14,000 people. There are so many interesting people in this hobby. So this gets bigger and bigger. I'm telling you, this hobby's growing like crazy.
There you go. Well, I hope you're right.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
Kevin.
thanks, Lionel.
Testing.
Go ahead. Say that again. That was good, Jim.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's the voice of Jim Sacco, who is graciously every year allows the AML studios to be in the back part of his booth at Springfield. That's very nice of you to do that every year, Jim. I always feel like I'm imposing.
I feel like I'm imposing on the AML booth.
How do you figure that? You're the one providing us with space, and you let me stick all my stuff under there. I do bring cookies, though.
Because you guys are my friends.
Well, yeah, I know. You got to keep the microphone. There you go. You can't.
Okay.
You can't do this, Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You got to stick with it. All right. So, how many years have you been coming to Springfield?
This will mark 31.
31 years. And are you excited as always? Are you as excited 31 years later as you were 31 years ago? That makes no sense.
Honestly, maybe not quite as much, but I'm happy I'm still alive and can be here.
Well, exactly. We're both happy to be alive. So how much? Do you sell like what, $600,000-$700,000 worth of stock in a weekend?
Oh, easy.
Yeah. Easy.
That's just the first day.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So how long? And you come from Pittsburgh. How long did it take you to get here?
It takes us about 9.5 hours.
Right. And you come by yourself?
No, I came with Marty, my friends Marty and his son Andrew. Actually, technically, I guess you would say I came with them because they drove my van.
Oh, they drove the van and you just rode along?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay. Have you got any new products this year?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, what are they? Let's have them. Let's tell. See, this is why you're on the podcast. You hate being interviewed, but now people are going to know about your new products.
Well, we have a...
Don't turn away.
We have a new set of hanging storefront signs, but we also have which I'm supposed to be getting tonight at the hotel, really neat set of roof details that can be used on any building. It has a rooftop stairway, skylights, access hatches, vents, chimneys. It's like, maybe 32 different details in one set.
Really? 32 different details in one set. And how much does this set cost of 32 different?
$14.98.
$14.98.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's tremendous value.
I think so.
How many? So do you expect to sell like 2,000-3,000 of these sets?
Well, that would be tough since I think he's only sending me like 50 of them. But
but you could take orders.
Yeah. Well, they'll be on our website. Yeah.
What's your website? Tell everybody what your website is.
www.cityclassics.biz. B-I-Z.
How did you end up with biz?
Because some guy took cityclassics.com 20 years ago and has never used it and won't give it up.
You should have tried for cityclassics.ca. Then you would have been Canadian.
Well, I have cityclassics.co.org and .info too.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, but they all take you to .biz when you click on it.
Exactly. Okay.
Oh, we got the whole base covered, just not .com.
So biz is the way to go. Cityclassics.biz, and they can find you these new. Are there new roof details on there?
Not yet till we get home.
All right, but then you're going to put them on. So let's talk now. We're now going to talk specifically to Tony Cook, Model Railroad News editor, and all about man about town. He owns a Cadillac. He owns a Lincoln Continental
And a dog.
named Bandit. So I think Tony should review these new roof details, don't you?
Absolutely.
I'll ask him right now. I said, Tony, can you please review Jim Sacco's cityclassics.biz, their new roof detail sets.
Yes. On the cover, too.
On the cover. Say goodbye, Jim.
Bye.
Well, you guys say goodbye, Jim.
Goodbye, Jim.
Okay, so now I'm here with Rick Hunter of Hunter Line Quality Craftsman Kits.
Hi, Lionel. How are you? Jeez.
Hey, Rick.
I haven't seen you for a whole year.
Exactly. You guys have you've been doing this a long time.
26 years.
How long have you been doing it full time?
Probably 20.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you're based out of?
Cambridge, Ontario.
And how many kits do you have now? I mean, we're standing in front of the booth and it goes around the corner. Like, does it go down the other side too?
No.
Or just
Nope, that's Imagine That over there.
Who's that?
Imagine That.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a-
right. Okay.
This is the Canadian island, okay?
All right.
But yeah, we got for big kits we're in N, H, O, S, and O, and we have 18 designs in each one now, and then we also have drawings for G and F and TT.
Wow.
So 7 scales.
So do you sell the drawings?
Yep,
Okay. So
as a drawing.
what's your best seller?
Best seller is our weathering mix down the other side that we make.
I remember that from years ago.
Yep,
And how much does it sell for?
it's $10 a bottle now. And when we come to a show, we come with I think we have 600 or 700 bottles there right
Really?
now. And chances are by Monday there won't be much left.
Really?
Yep, that's the way it
your
is nowadays.
stuff's been pretty popular. Though.
Yep.
'Cause
Yep.
you like doing clinics. You and your wife, your
Yep.
lovely wife. His name is
Hi, Maureen.
Maureen. And so you guys have been working at this together now. And Maureen's always here building a bridge during
Yep.
the show, isn't she?
Yep. Well, when we first started doing shows, she was doing a lot of knitting.
Right.
So now the knitting happens on the road, and she builds bridges while we're here.
Okay.
And she has virtually now built everything you see all the way around here.
She's built all this stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we're standing...
There's
how
only
long-
one way to learn the business.
Yeah.
Do it.
So we're looking at what, 16, about 20 feet, and then around the corner. So we're
Yep.
probably looking at 24 feet
Yep. Linear feet. Yep. Of just
covered
kits.
of kits, and she's built them all.
Yep.
Wow. And they're beautiful. They're all beautiful.
Well, thank you. We think so.
I said, they're beautiful. You didn't build them. She built them.
Well, yeah, but I had a lot to do with it.
Oh, okay. What exactly is it you've done here? Because it seems like Maureen's done all the work.
I do all the research,
Okay.
and then I put all the preliminary drawings together, and then at home I'm in AutoCAD, so I do all the I do the world term. I do one drawing in the world terms, okay, really 1-to-1,
Right.
and then everything else is a mathematical factor.
So you do
So I do one.
drawing
Yep.
in full size.
Yep. Like
And
that's
what did you say?
electronically.
World turn?
World terms.
World terms.
So it actually thinks that
real
bridge-
world terms.
Yeah.
You-
Like that, it actually thinks that bridge is 170 feet long.
Okay. And then from there,
It's a mathematical number.
okay, and then you start knocking it down. And you know what CAD stands for?
You're going to tell me.
Computer aided design.
Well, I knew that. I
And
thought
you know
you were
who
going
did-
to get gross here.
No. And you know who told me that? Lex Parker.
Yes.
He was the one that told me.
Yep.
Um,
And that's what it is.
exactly. Somebody told me. Oh, it stands for Canadian dollar too. So
That's it. Yep.
Okay, so what's your most popular kit?
Probably in the HO ones. HO by far, I guess. For little kits, it's like the little king posts, queen posts, the portals, and then you get more complicated up to the trestles, covered bridges, and up to the big howls, both through bridges and deck bridges. And that's about it. One of our new products is,
Yes.
you'll see on the covered bridges, is the shakes on top. We searched the world trying to find the shakes that we wanted for this.
Right.
We could not find them. So there's only one thing left to do. Make them ourselves.
Wow.
And they're very bulky. They're very 1840-ish.
Yeah.
Okay? They're big, bulky, very, there's no symmetry to them.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. The way they were in
And they actually come on a sheet, and you pop them out. And with this type of a deal, when it's on a 4x12 sheet, there's actually no waste whatsoever.
really.
Yep. You even see how there's a little margin around the outside? You even use the margin. That's your starter strip. When you start at the bottom, you put the margins there, and then that sets the angle so you can go up with each course.
So how much is a set of package of cedar shakes?
They're about $25 or so. It depends. Like this is solid basswood.
Right.
Okay, these aren't laminate whatsoever. They are solid basswood. So using basswood all the time, it stains the same, it works the same, it glues the same.
Okay. And so all your kits are all basswood,
Absolutely.
and you get all your wood probably from the same supplier.
Mostly Mount Albert scale lumber.
Okay. Tim Morris.
Yeah, I would say about 98% from there.
Okay. And probably you were getting it from him before it became Tim Morris owned it.
Well, actually, the originator, Al Collins,
Yes.
he's actually going to be here this weekend. Him and I go back to 93,
Wow.
1994, somewhere in there. When he started, we started.
Wow, I should look for him. I remember when you guys started because we're from the same basic area.
Yeah.
And did you start with these
Yep,
smaller?
the little tiny king posts. That was the first. That was right there. That's the first one we put on the market.
Okay, and what does it sell for now? $20?
Yep. $29.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we like. Okay, that is the price, be it Canadian dollars or U.S. dollars.
Okay.
That is our benefit to Canadians from a Canadian.
All right. So if you go on your website, the price is $29 Canadian.
Yep, but don't order on the website because it's all in U.S.
Oh,
dollars.
all right.
So Canadians, we always ask, just email us
Email
what you
me.
want.
Okay.
And then we transact in Canadian dollars.
I got a great question for you. I asked this question to all the manufacturers.
Yep.
And people are getting tired of me asking it, but I like asking it because I get a different answer from every single person. But you've been in the hobby forever. You've built this business. I mean, so what's your most expensive kit?
Most expensive kit, it'd be down here, probably an O scale 170-foot howl.
Wow.
Like these go for that kit is $330. This one's $345.
Okay. And will you sell many of those this weekend, do you think?
A couple.
A couple.
Yep. And then we also sell them made up. Like this one made up is $1,200.
Okay. And do you sell many, like occasionally you sell them?
Yeah, 4 or 5 a year maybe.
Really? Eh?
Yep. That's
Wow.
keep Maureen busy.
Keeps Maureen busy, yeah. She
And then-
doesn't get to knit anymore then.
A lot of times they'll take the demo right here.
Right.
Okay. Back here, there's you can see the big long bridge of S scale
Yes.
is missing
Oh,
because
the
somebody
S-
bought it.
S
So,
scale.
so that's what she's making down there.
Oh, all right. So you hear that, Mike? A spoon. You hear that? The S-scale bridge is gone because somebody bought it. Did you ship it to Green Bay, Wisconsin?
No.
Okay. All right. If you say so. Did you sell it to Bob Frischella?
Nope. The guys.
We thought there was.
How can I say this? The guys who are eccentric enough to do that are Californian usually. They can't be bothered to build it. They want it right there.
Okay, that's cool. All right. So now I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. You've been in the hobby forever. You've made a very successful business out of it. Is the hobby growing, dying, shrinking, going sideways? What's happening?
I think overall it's getting more sophisticated. Okay, like one of our biggest targets is the baby boomer, because the baby boomer is now maybe a little more time on their hand, maybe a little bit more free dollars on their hand, and they always wanted to. They were wannabes, and now they can.
Right.
And that's why we still produce this type of product, because the market is still there. On the whole, I think it's staying kind of level, but we are always on the up.
You're always on the up. See, that's what everybody says to me. They think the hobby's staying level, but all the good manufacturers like you and NCE and and Scale Trains, like everybody says their sales are going up. So I don't know how the hobby's staying the same if everybody's sales are going up.
We're surviving, and it kind of separates the men from the boys, for a cliche, but the quality has to be there now. The market is demanding.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so you got to have a quality product.
Yep.
If you don't have a quality product, people aren't going to buy
Yep.
it. So that's something that's
And
maybe changed a little bit.
Like in our type of product, it's so detailed that it's usually used as a focal point.
Right.
Okay, and you want your focal point to be good,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
and that's what our products are.
Perfect. All right. There's the S-scale bridge right there. It's just up top so nobody can touch it.
Well, that one, no, that's the deck bridge.
Oh, okay.
This
that's
is
deck
the
bridge.
through bridge.
All right.
And
I'm
that
sorry.
one is an extra one, so we're
you're
selling
getting
it off
extra.
cheap.
Oh, that's $800. Cheap.
Yeah.
Dirt cheap. All right. One more time. What's your website?
Website is hunterline.com.
Hunterline.com.
You can't get much easier.
Okay. Because your name's Rick.
Rick Hunter. Hunterline.
Yeah. And Maureen does all the work.
Yeah, at
Perfect.
shows.
I think Maureen does all the work, period. I got a feeling.
And then I do all the driving, too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. How long did it take you to get here?
Well, we left last Friday,
All right.
so that was a week ago.
Were you
And
driving
see,
backwards?
our weathering mix, we make on the road.
Oh, you make it on the road?
Yeah, we're a motorhome and a trailer.
Okay.
So we convert the motorhome.
I'm starting to have...
Sort of like Breaking Bad, okay?
I was just going to say, I'm starting to have visions of Breaking Bad.
Well, the first time we did it on the road...
You kind of look like...
We
what's the guy's
Cranston.
name? Walter...
Yeah, Cranston.
Yeah, but there was the character he played was... Hindenburger.
Or something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
But the
Some people say
first time we made it on the road, we were in the desert of New Mexico. And we looked at each other and said, we're Breaking Bad. And it's stuck ever since.
And now you're going to sell 700 bottles of it this weekend.
Pretty much, yep.
Wow.
Now, some of that's to dealers, because we have dealers in every room, every building.
Sure,
okay?
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it. I think I'm going to let you go. I'm going to a hockey game tonight, so I got to go.
A hockey game?
Yeah, hockey. I'm Canadian. It's hockey, man. What else is there besides
It's
hockey?
Saturday night. That's hockey night in Canada.
I'm not in Canada. I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Say goodbye, Rick.
Goodbye, Rick.
Okay, so now I'm sitting here with Ted Roy.
How you doing, Lionel?
I'm doing good. You know one thing I don't like about the start of every segment?
What's that?
And actually, Barry Silverthorne pointed that out to me when I was hosting his videos for Train Masters.
Mm-hmm.
Is I always start with, okay, so now we're sitting here with.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I always start out with okay, and it's like I got to come up with something better. But I'm not hip like the kids. Like, what's happening? What's up? I can't do that.
That was good in the 70s, but not now.
Well, they all do it on YouTube.
Really?
Oh yeah, all the kids. I try to be hip with the kids at all times. So so Ted, where are you from?
I'm from Connecticut.
Whereabouts in Connecticut?
Woodstock. We're up in what they call the Quiet Corner.
The Quiet Corner. So give us
We're close to Rhode Island and close to Massachusetts.
Do you ever go to Rhode Island?
Yes.
Why?
Only when I can't avoid it.
They have a good hobby shop there, though, don't they?
They do. AA Hobbies.
Yeah. And do you go there?
Yes, I do.
All right. And so give us a little bit. Is it a big store, medium-sized store?
It's a packed store.
Packed store, okay.
Yeah, it's a medium-sized store, but
It's
all
packed
aisles
to the
are
rack.
packed.
Those are the best kind.
They are. You can always find the good stuff there.
Yeah, I know. For some reason or other, those stores are the ones you feel like you can't walk out of without buying something.
Very true. Very,
Right?
very true. Happens to me all the time.
Right. So what are you modeling these days?
I model ON30 right now.
Right. You've been doing that for a while, haven't you?
I have. But
Yeah.
I've completed my first module, and it's being exhibited over at Mallory with the Narragansett Railway.
Well, that's a pretty cool layout, isn't it?
It is. It's a very cool layout.
Yeah.
In fact, that I wanted to have a module in their layout, so I actually went and joined the club and worked with their Grand Poobah of module building, Justin, and I have another one on the way, and I completed one for this time around.
So do they have some sort of like a grading, like you have to meet a certain standard to get on? Because it's pretty spectacular modeling.
I don't know whether it's a standard, but I took my base module with just the frame and the foam and brought it down there.
Right.
And I brought it down to Justin's house. He took a look at it. He said, "You're doing everything right." So
Okay.
just continued going. First time it's been out of my house was yesterday when we brought it down and hooked it up.
Okay. And any scenery on it yet, or?
It's complete.
Oh, really? Okay. So.
Anything but details.
And do they not give you any guidelines for the scenery?
Kind of. It has to kind of go with what Rhode Island would look like. Mine's like general New England, so it'll work out well.
Okay. Okay. And so it transitions well from one
Yes.
to the other.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So. Let's see. What else should I ask you? Tell me something that I should ask you.
You should ask me about my trees.
Okay. What about your trees?
They're actually scale.
Your scale. Okay. So do you build them by hand, probably?
By hand, wireframe, super tree foliage, and then I do some tricks to make it all look great. And it doesn't take me that much time, but they look fantastic, and they're in scale.
And the scale is ON30, so it's an O-scale tree.
So I make 60-foot trees. So when you wind up putting up a 10-foot tree or a 10-inch tree or a 12-inch tree,
Right.
they're actually scale because most model railroaders never use a scale tree.
Right, yeah.
They're always like, if you're running HO, you're literally looking at like an N-scale tree next to it.
Okay. So how did you get interested in making those trees so realistic?
It was one of those things that if I'm building them to be real, and I'm building it to be as close as I can get to being
Right.
really well done and things like that. Well, the trees have to be in scale too, otherwise they look funny.
Okay, so you're saying you're using a wire frame.
Yep.
What's a wire? What is that?
Just floral wire.
Floral wire, okay. Because
Yep.
that's not very thick.
No, but when you bundle 72 of them together,
All right.
it gives you a good 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, whatever you're going to make it to.
And where can you buy floral wire?
Anywhere. I get pre-cut lengths. I get it at Walmart.
Walmart. Oh, really? I didn't know you could buy floral wire at Walmart. Okay, so
not Walmart.
Not
Michael's.
Walmart.
Michael's.
people are listening to this, Ted.
Well,
Right now, Rod Deary is grading his road. He's out in Coolin, Western Australia, near Coolin, which is where he lives, and he's grading the roads. And you got to give him the right information because he says the podcast encourages him with his modeling. So you can't just be giving him, you don't want him flying all the way or going all the way to Walmart and then finding out it's the wrong stuff.
Any good craft store will have one.
I know.
I know.
All right, so then you do the floral wire, then what?
You keep breaking it out. There's a number of online tutorials through YouTube
Okay.
on doing wireframe trees. And you wind up bundling it, and then you wind up cutting parts off for the roots, and you bend those all out, and then you bend out the trees, and then you attach whatever foliage you're going to attach to it.
And can you think off the top of your head any of these YouTube videos?
Yes, Luke Towan does a number of videos on this.
Oh, does he? Okay, so
Yeah, I
Luke
learned
Town.
from him. And there's a guy who does Eye High, I believe, is the stuff he does. And he's a master scenery maker. He doesn't do any models. Literally, his models are of the scenery.
Okay.
And he does fantastic work. And again, he showed how to do the trees. So I wound up following what he did and then working through it.
So if on YouTube all you put in for search was, say, model railroad scenery, he might come up?
He might come up, but if you do wire trees,
Okay.
you're even better.
Okay, so put in wire tree, wire model. Say it again.
Like a wireframe tree.
Wireframe tree. See? I'm tired because the show's
How late did they keep you up last night?
They kept me up pretty late last night because we went to a hockey game. And also the show, I think, is busier than it's been other years. It seems like a mass of humanity out there.
It is. It is. It always is.
It always is, but this year seems like even more overwhelming to me somehow. Maybe I wasn't ready or something. I don't know. But it just seems like this massive sea of people out there. Everybody's busy. Okay, so then after you've, with the wireframe tree, what's the next step?
Well, you can either use a netting over the top of it by pulling apart the fibrous mesh stuff you can get from like Woodland Scenics, and you drape it over it, or you can use super tree pieces.
Right.
All those different things. And then you just wind up flocking whatever you put into that. And I use hairspray.
Okay, what's super tree pieces?
You ever know what super trees are? They're like the sedum, like the sagebrush pieces.
Right. So is this a company?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Scenic Express sells those stuff.
Scenic Express sells super trees. Ted, have you ever listened to the podcast? Now, come on.
I have. Every single one, believe it or not.
So we got to tell everybody.
Other than the Patreon ones.
How come?
Because I don't do it for anyone.
Maybe you could do it for me and us and the community. The more patrons we get, the better the podcast will be.
I understand that.
Yeah. It's like 16 cents a day. Or you can just give me $100 and we'll call it square.
We could do that if I get a lifetime membership. Isn't that the way that works for the NMRA too?
Not anymore. Used to be. I'm still kicking myself that I didn't sign up for the lifetime membership 20 or 30 years ago.
Yep.
Because it was dirt cheap and now it's like expensive. So do you think the hobby's growing or shrinking?
Growing.
Yeah, because of the internet, right?
Because of the internet. I would completely agree with that. And I would also say the ability to do 3D printing at home.
Okay. Are you getting into that?
I don't have time to.
Okay.
I had barely enough time to get my module to the where it is now, so I'd be able to have it ready for the show. I drive 4 hours a day to go to work.
Do you?
Yeah, 2 hours one way, 2 hours back.
From where to where?
From Connecticut to Boston.
Okay, and so it's a good thing you have a podcast. See, if you belonged to Patreon, you'd have twice as many podcasts to listen to.
If you knew what my budget was for audiobooks, you'd be shocked.
Oh, so you buy audiobooks, but you don't buy podcasts.
I like your interview podcasts a lot more than I like the the virtual hobby shops, and just the roundtable stuff.
Okay, well, have you? Well, yeah, but all that stuff's on Patreon. You haven't heard it for 3 years, so you don't even know what it's like.
Well, I noticed when you dribble them out, I listen to all. Do you remember when Model Rail Radio, because I've told this to Tom Barbalet also, Model Rail Radio, when they used to actually give you tips and techniques instead of just interviewing people to what they're doing?
Right.
I missed that.
Okay.
So if there was one thing that there was like people who were explaining techniques on how they were doing things, I would like to see that.
Except I'm trying to get you to explain how to build this tree, and it's like pulling teeth.
I've been telling you how to build this tree.
All right, so I just got to somehow find some way to entice you over to the Patreon side. Okay, so what do you cover the wire frame with to make it look like
ground foam?
Ground foam for the
right.
Even the trunk?
No, the trunk. I use hot glue.
Okay, well, see, we didn't say that. You like the tips and
you never got there.
You like the tips and techniques, but it's like I gotta make sure I answer.
You never let me get there. You keep going back off on this Patreon.
Okay, well, I'll just stop talking and you tell us all about how to make the tree. So, okay, you use hot glue.
I will use hot glue to make up the trunks and to thicken the branches.
Right.
And then you attach whatever branching material, whether it be super trees or whatever pulled foam. You can use the stuff that you use for furnace filters. You can pull that stuff apart and use that too.
All right.
So once you pull all that apart, and then you do a 3-step flocking process.
Okay, what is that 3-step flocking?
So you use dark, medium, and light.
Okay.
So you use the dark underneath. You do the main part of the tree in the medium green.
Right.
And you highlight it with light or the burnt grass one.
All right, and this is all Woodland Scenics products?
Yeah. And then you can run knock leaves over the top of it too if you want to.
What are knock leaves?
Another company called Knock, they make little leaves, just like ground foam, but it looks like leaves, and you dust it with that too.
And how do you spell it?
N-O-C-H.
Knock. I think I've heard of it, but I'm not. Would it be here?
Again,
anywhere?
Scenic Express.
Scenic Express.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good going concern, isn't it? That place.
It is. One of my favorite things that they sell is Martin Wellberg products.
Yes, we just discovered Martin Wellberg products. And how long have they been selling those?
I don't know, but that's where I've been buying them from.
Okay. And so how long have you been... Hey, okay, but you must have noticed, like, have you been buying them 5 years off them, 2 years, 3 years?
1 year.
1 year, so they've only just started selling them.
No, I just found them to use them on my module.
Oh, all right.
And their stuff is like crack.
Yeah.
Once you start using it, everything else is hard to go back to.
Yeah, that's like the Patreon channel. Once you start listening to it, you can't stop.
Well, I may just have to do that now.
Well, if you ever want to hear this interview, you know what? I'm going to put this on the free channel.
Okay.
To make sure you listen to it.
I will.
And then from there, I'll anxiously be waiting to see if you sign up for the $5. It's 16 cents a day. I have a guy that's reviewed my podcast once.
Yep.
And he said, "Oh, you got to push Patreon more. You got to push Patreon more." And I don't like doing that. I'm not really I don't like.
Yeah, but you're not pushing it to make money on it. You're pushing it to cover your creation costs.
Yeah. I'm very expensive creatively.
You are. Good talent's hard to come by.
Yeah, and boy, if we ever find some, eh?
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Between the two of us.
All right, Ted, where are you headed next?
I am going to be wandering my way over to Foggy Bottom Models because there's a freight station I'd like to pick up.
In O-Scale?
In O-Scale, yeah.
And where's Foggy Bottom Models from where we are right now? It's sitting in the City Classics booth.
In the City Classics booth. You're on the back wall. If you continue across the back wall, they're over by Foss-Scale Models and Carolina Craftsman.
So they're still in the Better Living Center?
Yes, they are.
I'm telling you, this year, because what time is it now? You got your watch? Somebody's got a watch. He's going to get out his phone. He's going to check the time on his phone.
11:30.
It's 11:30. So the show's been open for 2.5 hours, and the crowds are still thick.
Yes, they are.
Thick.
It has been one of the heaviest.
Yeah, you think that too, do you? Because I'm thinking it can't be just me. This is a real wild turnout they're having.
I would completely agree with you. I'm trying to get the that other scenery guy for you.
Oh, the other senior guy's layout?
Yeah.
He's lost interest in being on the podcast
No,
now.
I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help out my
He's just
fellow
thumbing through
modelers.
his phone.
Yeah.
All right, Ted. It's great to talk to you again. I always appreciate it. You've been a great friend right from the get-go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so do I.
And I'll say this again, and I've said it to you before. About 3 years ago, I talked to you.
Right.
And I told you that being able to listen to your podcast before Patreon, you really did help me through a hard time in my life, giving me something to listen to and take my mind off of stuff. And I really wanted to tell you that so that other people would hear it also.
I really appreciate that, and it's kind of cool that's happened. I've had other people say that to me, and it's very humbling. Really, that's what it is. It's humbling because when I started it, I decided I wouldn't be anybody else but myself. I couldn't pretend to be somebody else because I'm just not that way. And it's very humbling that people enjoy the podcast and all my, because we do get a lot of information out of it. I mean, I like to kid around and have fun and all that. But at the end of the day, talking to people about their model railroading is a lot of fun. And then you talk to people about their peoples and all that stuff. What do you do for a living?
I'm a network engineer.
Okay. Same place for how long you been working there?
10 years now.
So is it hard to move closer? Is it hard to get a different job? Why do the 2 hours? Not that must be tough on you.
It is tough, but I've done it for so many years. I've almost done it for 18 years between multiple different companies.
Right.
I work for a financial, so you kind of stay in that same business for things. And the other part of it is that when I got remarried after my first wife died, my next wife's house was in a good school district for my son and things like that.
Right.
So we were able to move him to a good school.
Right.
Her son was in a good school, so we were able to leave him there because you're in town.
Right.
You wind up getting that as part of the package of living in town. So we're waiting for my stepson to make it out of high school, and then we'll be able to move closer.
Okay, and you're just doing the right thing because you care about your kids.
That's exactly right.
Attaboy. It's something. I'm going to shake your hand. It's something to be proud of, Ted. Good man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, if I can just get my kid to pay his rent, we'll be all set.
That's okay. Turn off his water.
Nah, I can't. He's a good guy. He's a really, really good guy. He's a nice person. He's a good person.
I can tell by your posts.
Yeah, he's a good guy. All right, that's it. You got to get back out there. You know what? I'm sending you back out there.
Throwing the fish back, huh?
Yeah, tighten your chin strap and get out there and mix it up with them.
Gonna need to.
Yeah. Thanks, Ted.
You got it.
Okay, so now we're sitting here with... Look, I got to turn mine down a little bit. I'm going to turn mine down a little bit. We're sitting here with Rod Deary from Coolin, Western Australia. Is that right?
That's right.
And how far is that from Perth?
About 3.5 hours.
And how far is it gravel road? How much of it is there? How far do you have to drive to get to the nearest paved road?
I live on a paved road.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're always grading gravel roads.
Well, someone has to.
So how big is Coolin?
The town is about 350 people.
And how did you end up there?
When I moved to Western Australia, I found a friend who lived out there, and I moved out and haven't left since, 25 years ago.
What was her name?
No, sadly, his name was Brian.
Oh, Brian. Oh, you found Brian out there.
Yeah.
So how did you find the podcast?
I Googled it, and I found your spin-off podcast.
Right.
With that annoying Australian bloke. And then I found yours, and I thought I'll give it a try.
And what did you first think? Tell us what you were telling us earlier. When you first turned it on.
Well, there was these two old guys, and they were just waffling lots of rubbish.
And you almost turned it off.
Well, I did turn it off, and then I thought, oh look, I couldn't find anything else quickly to fill in the time, so I turned it back on. And I just thought I'll give it another 5 minutes.
And that must have been the magic 5 minutes.
I wouldn't say that. It wouldn't go that far.
You've traveled all the way to Australia, but you've listened to them all now.
And some of them twice.
And some of them twice.
I have, yes. I'm dedicated.
So after 5 minutes, you started thinking, I'll give it another 5 minutes, and then another 5 minutes, and then we had you by the end of the second podcast.
Fortunately, Lionel, you do have some interesting interview subjects.
Yes.
Present ones not included.
No, but that's the beauty of it. Now we're talking to a guy that you drive a grader. You're in charge of a road crew, right?
Yeah.
And part of your job is driving the grader to keep because that looks like a big road that we always see you on. It's a main road.
We've got about 1,300 kilometres of gravel roads that we have to maintain. We grade them at least twice a year. And depending how busy they are, some of them get graded 6 or 7 times a year.
Okay. But in that part of Australia, like basically it's gravel roads, right? Like there's not much out there.
Yeah, there's some sealed roads, but yeah, most of our shire is gravel roads.
Yeah. And I could go as fast as I want because there's no cops out there, right?
Not a lot.
No.
No.
Okay. So what kind of modeling do you do?
I model in HO.
Right.
It's proto-freelanced. I've got a steel mill on my model. It's a mixture of Australian and American outline. It's, like I said, it's proto-freelance, so I don't really mind what equipment I run on it.
Right. And how big is it?
It's in a room about 6 metres by 3.5, so that's around about 20 feet by 14.
Okay. And I'm assuming in Coolin, down to 300, you're probably the only model railroader, or is there a couple others?
There is a guy there that collects, but he doesn't operate, and he just collects all scales and puts them in a cabinet on the wall.
Right. And so how do you interact with other model railroaders there? Do you go to any meets or anything, or
online? I am a member of the NMRA Western Division in Australia.
Right.
But it's not very active at the moment. And unfortunately, my nearest club is either in Perth or, which, like I said, is 3.5 hours away, or Albany, which is to the south, which is 3.5 hours away. So, most of what I do is online.
So, you're a perfect example of what I'm saying. So, I mean, the hobby must have come to life for you with social media and being on the internet.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Like, it must just be an entirely different thing for you now than it was 10 years ago.
It's an entirely different thing from what it was 12 months ago.
Okay.
Because I'll give you a boost here, Lionel. Because of your podcast, I've heard so much of what other people are doing, and that's helped motivate me to do more myself.
Okay.
And that's a real buzz. I'm the sort of guy whose interests wander a lot.
Right.
So I've got lots of other hobbies as well.
Sure.
But it's funny, in the last 12 months, I've really been strong on model railroading again.
Because of you feel like you know the people that are.
I do, and I'm just so interested in everything that they're doing, and I'm learning so much just listening to them. So yeah, it's great.
Like, that's the best part of the whole thing. I mean, we're being able to talk to so many people and connect, and the community we're building. I mean, this is another classic example. You and I had never met for even a second in our whole lives, and when we saw each other for the very first time, it was like we'd seen each other last week.
That's right. Yep, absolutely.
It was just, hey, Rod, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. And we've been having fun all weekend. Went to a hockey game and all that stuff. It's too bad that Tom Jacobs got tossed in jail, but we'll figure we'll get him out eventually.
Isn't he a disgrace?
Yeah.
For someone who has such a position of responsibility.
Yeah.
In his. Oh, we're not supposed to talk about that, are we?
No. Let's kind of keep it.
Yep.
Like when he was tussling with the one guy, but then when he took on the other 4 guys, that's when I was really.
I was impressed though. Really impressed.
Yeah. Okay, so so this is your first time to this show. Your first time. Is this your first time? Not probably your first time out of Australia, but is it? It's your first time to the East Coast of the United States?
It's first time to the United States, period.
Period.
Yes, and I came over for this show. I've known about this show for a long time.
Right.
And I'd virtually forgotten about it. And then and I heard you guys start to talk about it on the
podcast.
On the podcast, and I thought, wow, I might have to go there.
Right. That's the podcast you turned off once.
Well, yeah, once. well, it was probably slightly more than once, but
More than once. That's the best. I think there should be a new slogan.
but,
You'll turn it off after 10 minutes, but you might come back.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
It's Chris Atkins.
Chris Atkins.
Chris Atkins, the Texas guy. He's wearing the same shirt
Texas.
as me.
Yep.
We coordinated our outfits today.
Did you know that Western Australia is about 5 times bigger than Texas?
Western Australia is 5 times bigger than Texas.
Something like that.
Wow. I'll have to interview Chris later, and I'll tell him that.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So all right. What do you think of the show so far? Like, you've been wandering around now for what, 2 hours?
Yeah, about that. Awesome. Haven't bought anything yet.
Right. You just lost, basically.
Yeah. Yep. You've got it. I'm
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to. It's kind of hard to do an interview when people keep interrupting us. Eh?
Oh. Yeah.
So let's get back to this. Is your first? You've been at the show for a couple hours.
Yep.
You've wandered around. Like, you feel like you're going to be able to make any kind of inroads into being organized before the end of the day?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get around. Yeah. I've sort of worked out pretty well where everything. Only in this building, mind you. I know that there's another 3 buildings.
Oh, you haven't left this building yet?
Not yet.
Your head's.
Oh, that's how organised I was. I couldn't find you.
Yeah, there you go. Your head's going to be swimming in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because once you get out of this building, you still got work to do.
Yeah.
So your head's going to be swimming.
And I've got to get out and take a selfie with that live steam loco out.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Isn't it?
All right. So when you heading back to Australia?
I've got another 2 weeks yet, so I'm going to go and do a bit of probably do a bit of rail fanning. Go down to Washington DC and look at museums.
Right.
And then I'll head back to New York and just be a tourist.
Where do you think you're going to rail fan?
I don't know. Somewhere where there's trains, I guess.
Well, you got to post on fans of the podcast page.
I'll do that.
And say, where should I go rail fanning? And you'll get all kinds of great answers.
I will do that, yes. Yep.
I see it was helpful to sit here and talk to me.
Yes.
Isn't this the coolest thing that we got to meet like this?
It is. It is very cool.
It is very cool that the podcast, you connected with the podcast, that you turned it off once, turned it back on and went, okay, I'll give these guys a try. And now here we are, like we're old buddies, sitting here at the City Classics booth, watching the world. It's way busy. I think it's busier this year than it was last year. And I know you weren't.
Is it?
It seems more. Yes, it does. It just seems busier to me. I can't put my finger on it, but it does seem busier to me.
Cool.
All right. Do you have any last words? So give everybody some sort of something. Describe what the podcast means to you before we hang up.
Yeah. It's entertainment. It's very informative. And it fills in my day. I honestly can say that my days go faster because I can listen to the podcast. Not just yours, but all podcasts. But
there's other podcasts?
I only have one number one podcast.
Okay. There are other podcasts?
There's that annoying Australian guy and a couple of others. But yeah.
I got to steer you on to. I used to have a podcast, and I keep threatening to start it again called Lionel's Little Playhouse. And it was me and my secretary, about 15, 20 minutes long. And she was a hoot. So I should steer you on to those because they're still online somewhere.
Okay.
And I should start it up again. All right. That's it. So you got to get out of here. You got to get your breath. You got to get your legs working and keep moving because you got a lot of ground to cover.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Rod.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, let's shake hands.
Oh, thank you.
We can shake hands.
All right, so those were all pretty good interviews. They were all excellent interviews, as a matter of fact. They were better than pretty good. They were all excellent interviews. I'm a little thrown off right now because I just edited the intro to this show, and I had to listen to myself, and that's never an easy task, trust me. That is never an easy task. I sounded like I was smoking the happy grass. I was enjoying some of the chewables that are now available in Canada. I cannot stand listening to myself. I like listening. Here's the way it works. I enjoy listening to all the podcasts when we're discussing whatever it is we're discussing with whoever it is we're discussing it with. But when I have to do these intros or outros by myself, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It just drives me nuts. Okay, so there we had Kevin Rudko, our buddy Jim Satko. Who else did we have? Ted Roy. Oh, yeah. Rick Hunter from hunterline.com with all his really cool bridges. He was excited. Rick is always like he was always like at full speed. He was excited. He's always at full speed, but boy, anytime you see him at a show or wherever, or if you're going to Springfield next year, or go to his website, hunterline.com. That is a quality product that him and his wife Maureen are selling. So who'd we talk to? We talked to Kevin Rudko. I tried to sound like I knew what I was talking, or more like I tried to sound like I understood what he was talking about. Then we talked to our buddy Jim Satko, who hates being interviewed, but I always make him do it. And then we talked to Rick Hunter, as I just said, Ted Roy, who has been a long-time listener, and we're trying to talk to Ted. Says he doesn't do online stuff, he doesn't subscribe, but he gets audiobooks. So come on, Ted, 16 cents a day, and there'll be tons more stuff for you to listen to on the Patreon channel. And finally, we finish up with our buddy Rod Deary, who came all the way from Cooland, Australia, which is in Western Australia. It's 200 miles east of Perth, but he had to drive 200 miles west to Perth, get on a plane. I think he said fly to Sydney, then fly to New York. He's been all over the place. And then he took some extra time and did some rail fanning and everything like that. He's the kind of guy that should be. And then he came to the awards banquet, or it's not an awards banquet. He came to the AML banquet dinner. Yeah, let's not call it a banquet. Let's call it, just stick with a dinner. He came to the AML dinner, and he brought his own award. He brought 2 of his own awards, which was really cool, which garnered him the HO scale liquid manure pit. That was classic. At that dinner, I came up with this brilliant idea that I was going to give him and Peter Borchards a liquid manure pit for traveling the farthest. And I did it, and I presented it and everything, and then I sat down at the dinner, and poor old Gordy Robinson, who's sitting across the dinner from me, he's like, well, I came from Scotland. He came from Orkney. He came from the Orkney Islands, which is really a long trip. Ferries, planes, boats, cars. He covered it all. And he's looking at me like, and but it had just so happened that I had bought that day, Chris Brimley had delivered 3 HO scale Faller liquid manure pits. So I look like a genius. I just went right out to my car and said, oh yeah, Gordy, here it is. Anyways, that was fun. It was a fun part of the dinner. I think we've covered everything. So on the way home, why don't you stop in at Chick-fil-A? For years, I called it Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, yeah, that's what I called it. Because I can't talk. That's why I called it that. I was with somebody not that long ago, and we went to this place called Ybor City, which is in Tampa, in the Tampa area. It's on the part of the downtown Tampa area, and it's a restaurant-y. It's where they made cigars years and years ago. And we had really cool lunch in this restaurant called Columbia Restaurant. I had a Cuban sandwich and a salad, which was really, really good. I'm going back to that place. But apparently, I was pronouncing it Ybor City. And it's not Ybor, it's Ybor. And I'm asking her, why can't I talk? Why am I the only person with a podcast that can't pronounce names? Somebody explain that to me, please. Anyways, on the way home, stop at Chick-fil-A. Grab some of those great chicken sandwiches, some fries. Get yourself, get a couple extra orders. Buy some, whatever else they have there. When you get home, give the little woman a peck on the cheek and pet the dogs and shake hands with the kids. See if they have a report card. And just one other thing, I guess all I got to do is tell you that our email address
is Modeler's Life. That's modelerslife@gmail.com. Modelers with one L like railroad, not two L's like Lionel. We have a website, amodelerslife.com. If you go there, there's a link to join Patreon, Ted Roy. And find out all sorts of other stuff. Our most recent interviews, our most recent shows. Next week is part 2 of the 37-part Dave Abeley's trilogy, which is really good. Fascinating guy. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Oh, yeah. Next week, Ted Roy, if you belong to Patreon, you'll be able to hear some more interviews from Springfield. Okay, that's it. I've plugged it enough. The guys over there at the podcast review show said I don't plug Patreon enough. So there I did. So that's it. That's it. We're done. We're out of here. So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10 Cuban cigar makers.
And the lights all went down in Massachusetts the day I left, standing on the road, trying to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Got to do the things I got to do, and the lights all went down in Massachusetts.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of a Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.